Hello and welcome to the next lecture. I'm Sergio. This is the lecture titled Organize Your Data in Excel Like a Pro. And today we're going to be going over how you can take the keyword research that you're gathering or the competitor research that you're gathering as explained and how I recommended you should do in the previous lecture, Proven Methods for PPC Success. I'm going to go ahead and show you how I like to organize this data in a way that has allowed me to really efficiently create AdWords accounts and basically organize myself as I'm getting ready to create a new account or restructure an existing one. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and get started. I know I spoke about in the last lecture using SEMrush as the preferred keyword research / all things digital marketing research tool, but whatever types of tools you've used, I'm sure it's going to be fine for you to go along this lecture using the data that you have organized yourself. I'm going to go ahead and pull up a Excel spreadsheet here. It's a workbook with several tabs that I've been working on as I've been doing research for different categories of products that this particular client sells. And some of the categories, if you're taking a look at the footer tabs here, are shown as steam cleaners or looks like steam cleaners is the main category, and then there's also different types of steam cleaners, such as commercial steam cleaners or residential. There are also keyword categories that I'm looking into, such as carpet steam cleaners versus tile steam cleaners and things of that nature. So I started to kind of gather research from a few different areas. I took some from the Google Webmaster Tools search query report, where I could see what different keywords there are, the clicks, the impressions, and the CTR, so on and so forth. AdWords reports, SEMrush reports in some cases. And I've started to just kind of organize groups of keywords, as you can see here, with their respective search volumes, so that I could see not only what the search volume for each keyword is and what group it should be grouped up with, but also what URL I'm going to use as a destination URL or a landing page URL. So I've started to kind of, as you can see, organize my tabs here in a way such that I'll be able to quickly pop into the right tabs once I'm further into this and find, maybe a tab for each different category or campaign that I'm going to think of using. As I mentioned in the past, it's important to really have a granular ad group structure, separating your campaigns by either service type, category of products if you're selling products, so that you can really start to subdivide those campaigns into really granular groups of keywords, which you now know will be used as ad groups. So that's kind of the direction I'm heading in here. And of course, I'll have to do some better segmentation of these different tabs and start to produce tabs for the other types of keywords if they're missing, such as, like I said, the carpet steam cleaners or the tile steam cleaners. So here what I've done is I've pulled a report from Google Analytics, which is really helpful if you have that data. I'm inside a Google Analytics account right now, and under the acquisitions tabs, you can go to AdWords as a subcategory and then search queries to see which search queries are getting the best performance, and then also apply a secondary just dimension here to see what the destination URLs are, and that'll allow you to organize a spreadsheet once you export this using the export button at the top here. You'll be able to get a table that shows the keyword, destination URL, and if you have conversion data like e-commerce transaction rate, phone call conversion rate, and request a quote conversion rate set up, you can start to dig down on your data to see what keyword groups historically have performed the best and make educated decisions as to which keywords you should actually include in your ad groups as you're building them, rather than just guessing, if you have the data, of course. So when you have a spreadsheet, I added a little table to it to make it easier to organize, but essentially, if you don't have this blue table that I've added, you can just highlight all of the data, go to Insert, and click on Table, and then hit OK. What you can also do is create a pivot table, which is pretty nice and easier to digest. If you just click pivot table and then hit OK, what you can do is break down your items here in a hierarchy. So if you want to start with landing page as the first horizontal field there, and then keyword, it'll break it down by keyword group, depending on what URL was used to bring up that keyword. So here's the second group, car detailing, and here are all the car detailing keywords. If we start to go down, you can see that there's a carpet cleaner group with all the carpet cleaning keywords. Now, I've added that to the row labels here. By checking this, it automatically comes down here. You can also drag and drop, same thing. Next thing you want to do is start to add the values for each row here. And to do that, what we'll do is simply drag and drop. Probably want to start with sessions, new users, and then anything else that you want, you just simply drag down here. So that's another pretty cool way to look at your data in a different way. Essentially, you have the same data, but it's a bit more organized. It has the groups stacked up on top of each other. So there's a carpet cleaning, car pressure washers, commercial carpet cleaners, another group, commercial carpet extractors, commercial steam cleaners, floor hard surface keywords, which are related to, I guess, steam cleaners or pressure cleaners that clean hard floors, gas-powered hot steam pressure washers, gum removal equipment. So now we have a really nice organized list of all the different groups and the keywords and their respective performance metrics here. A couple of things here. You'll want to make sure that you're looking at the appropriate representation of these values by clicking on the drop-down for the respective metric that you've dragged down into the values field, and clicking on the value field settings. If you want to show the values by sum, essentially just adding them all up in the top field here, then you can do that. If you want the average, it'll give you the average for each metric here. So we can toggle here and change the average sessions to kind of see, okay, well, each keyword gets about 2.8 sessions as a whole from this keyword group, which is the all steam pressure washers group. And if I wanted to, change it back to sum, I would just go to value field settings, switch it back to sum. And this will allow you to kind of, tinker with the entire page as a whole and how it's performing and the way you can interpret those metrics and those data points. So that's a kind of a cool thing here. If you want to reduce the number of values being displayed, you can just highlight the whole row and go to the home tab and just start reducing start reducing the numbers here with this button. Okay, and the same thing here if you want. I'm hitting Control Shift and then hitting the down button, which will, on your keyboard, if you hit Control Shift and then down or any direction, it will highlight all of the data available until it runs into a cell that doesn't have any more data. So it's kind of a shortcut. If you're scrolling down manually, that can be a pain in the butt. So here's a few different ways that, like I said, you can take Excel and kind of organize your data as you're finding it. You can continue to add to this pivot table by adding different rows here to the bottom. If, let's say, you wanted to investigate more keywords for these groups that you feel were maybe missed or not gathered by your certain keyword research tool, you could start to add more data towards the bottom, go back to the pivot table, and just hit refresh data, and that will kind of update what's been missing from the previous sheet here where it's actually taking the data from. So that's one quick tip. I've started to gather a lot of different things here, and one thing that you may want to know how to do is to aggregate data from one spreadsheet to another, which you can do. I have a link in my in the written lecture of this Organize Your Data in Excel Like a Pro, where it teaches you how to do that, and several other great tips and tricks on how to use Excel shortcuts, formulas, and functions to really take your keyword research and gathering to the next level when preparing to create an AdWords account or really anything that has to do with keyword research. I encourage you to check that out. So we talked about, getting your historical data if you have it. I mentioned in the written lecture how to identify those keyword trends and patterns that are kind of indicating that certain keywords are performing better than others. On this table here, I've actually sorted by transactions, and you can see some of the keywords are rather long and not really always the keywords that you think will perform well. I have a spreadsheet here or a table here from a plastic surgeon in New York, where a lot of the keywords that converted at a low cost per click or cost per conversion are somewhat long, or they use the word cheap. We have another one here, one cheap here, another with cheap, another with cheap. And you can kind of start to identify that as a pattern and say, wow, well, it looks like people are looking for affordable and cheap plastic surgery costs. And that may be something that you want to include when you're building your ad groups, not just, the actual keyword itself, which represents your product or service, but also a price or an indicator that shows that the person's ready to make a purchase and just wants to save some money, such as appending the prefix word or adding affordable or cheap to the beginning or the end of your search query. Something as simple as that can really help your performance, and we'll talk about how to incorporate that as we're building our ad groups in the later lectures. That just about covers it. Aside from just remembering to be as granular as you can when building your keyword groups, think about the many different ways you can slice and dice your keyword groups to make them even more granular without going overboard, of course. And that will allow you to get the best quality score, as I mentioned, which is extremely important. So we'll talk soon and cover that and a lot more in the following lectures to come. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time.